started a long time ago. I graduated from university and became a high school math teacher in Eswatini, so a country that is 1/10 as smaller than Rwanda. So a very small country with just fantastic people, as there are in Rwanda, and it's began my love affair with Africa. Over the next, or the prior 40 years though, I'd have to say I didn't focus on beauty, I didn't focus on lots of other great things. I focused on the money. So I'm here to talk to you about startups and money. Really, my orientation was always just to build things. And many of the ideas I had were bad ideas. And then eventually, one of them worked. So one of my first ideas, in the old days, we had desktop computers instead of laptops, and it'd be a big screen and a mouse here. And as I was trying to type, you know, I would always go over to the mouse and come back and this kind of thing, and it was very inefficient. And so I realized, oh, the way it should work is you keep your hands on the keyboard and use your foot on the mouse. Okay? And so I invented the foot mouse. And I was a graduate student at Stanford University. I was all excited to drop out and to create the foot mouse company. And what I realized, we did some prototypes, is after about half an hour, your leg cramps. Okay? And second, it's very dirty. So after 2 or 3 days, you'd have to clean the mouse. It's gross. And that this was never going to work. So luckily, I did not quit university, and I'm glad that all of you are in school. But that's my orientation. I'm not particularly a good picker. I just keep trying things. And so 25 years ago, my friend and I had this idea to put DVDs in the mail and to post them to each other, and it worked. We thought at first they would break and shatter and all of that, but the DVD is very tough. And so for 10 years, all the company did is mail DVDs. We had a lot of competition with Blockbuster at the time. And then eventually, as YouTube grew, we could see that streaming was going to be possible. And so in 2007, we launched our first little bit of streaming, and it worked. And we did a little more and more. And then we started doing additional countries, because when you're with the Post, we were just in one country in the US. And the two moments that were the greatest moments for me at Netflix. First was doing our original content. So our first shows were House of Cards and Orange is the New Black. This was 10 years ago now, and were big successes. And then second was our global launch in 2016, where we went from just a few countries to every country on earth. Those moments, thank you, round of applause for Netflix doing that. It was so great. You know, I've always been a global-oriented person. I love people all over the world, whether that's in Germany, in Zambia, in Argentina, in Canada, and I like connecting people. And the internet is one of the amazing things that allows us to connect people. And so for the last 10 years, we've been growing around the world. And of course, what happens is when you're very successful, your competitors come fight you. And that's good for consumers to have Disney and Warner Brothers and all these other companies compete. So it's been a very exciting battle. And that's the nature of capitalism. And so when I think about you guys starting out, I have to tell you, I did not have a path. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I was a teacher for a few years. I did some software. And I just kept trying things and failing. And then eventually, one of them, DVD by mail, worked. And then once I had an idea that worked, I was just all the time focused on that idea. So I can't tell you if you do these 3 things, you'll be really successful. I can tell you if you're open to new experiences and ideas, and you're around a lot of interesting people who are trying things, then there's a good chance that you will be able to build something that you are very excited about. But it has to come because your inner drive is to change things. And when I think about how society changes, I mean, it's just in the last 20 years, in the last 100 years, everything has changed so much. It really comes from 2 sources. One big driver of change is technology, and the other is stories. So technology, of course, that's the wheel, the agricultural hoe, DNA, computers, the internet, buildings, cement, steel, all kinds of amazing things. All of these inventions add up, we share them and learn from them, and there's this huge progress driven by technology. And I'm sure that many of you will add to them and invent new things on top of the past, and we'll all celebrate them. So human progress has been hugely driven by technology. But what you might not realize is human progress is also driven by story. So a long time ago, there was the Old Testament. And in the Old Testament, justice was an eye for an eye. So you hurt me, I get to hurt you back the same amount. That was the idea of justice for thousands of years. And in the New Testament, everybody talked about turn the other cheek and love thy neighbor as thyself. And that was a new form of ethics that changed society in huge ways. And many other religions are like that. They bring us to a higher level of cooperation and consciousness. For all of human existence, 100,000 plus years, we've had kings rule us. That was all around the world. And then in the last 500 years, we started to develop crazy ideas, like government deriving its legitimacy from the consent of the governed. That's a radical idea. One person, one vote? That's crazy. And yet it's spreading around the world. The idea that women are not property, but are people. Sadly, that's really the last 100 years, and we still got a ways to go. So many of these fundamental changes are a change in the ideas. Now, there have been many ideas that we've benefited from, like the idea of money and being able to transfer value, and countries and religions, all kinds of positive things. But there's 2 ideas that I feel like our generation has failed you. One idea is about what is fairness and sharing. So some of you are born beautiful and smart and healthy and talented. And the question is, what is your obligation to those who may not be born as fortunate as you? In the natural world, the lion feels no obligation to the lamb. But we humans, we're trying to generate a story where we care for each other, even if you were born differently. And I feel like our generation has not really cracked that story. And hopefully, some of you will come up with a story that connects and binds us as a people. The second story that my generation really worked on was interdependence avoids war. So the old phrase was, no 2 countries with McDonald's ever had a war. Okay? And our theory was free trade, bind the world together. And in Europe, it worked. France and Germany, they've been fighting for 1,000 years. They had things like the 30-year war, the 100-year, I mean, really a lot of violence between them. World War I, World War II. And now, with economic interdependence, France and Germany are incredibly close and very interdependent. So the idea basically worked, And then we tried to extend that to Russia and China. And we were this close to giving you a world that was so globally interdependent, the war was not possible. Now we didn't succeed. And we have a war going on in Europe, and we've got fears of other wars. And one of your tasks as a generation is, what is the story that's better than interdependence avoids war? What is the story that's going to make war an irrelevance that people study, a thing of the past? Other stories have given us great moral progress in at least two areas. My generation, Frank's generation, we tried hard, but we haven't finished the job. Now it's up to you to raise the level of morality and thoughtfulness all around the world with your stories. So remember, as you want to improve the world, technology, it's awesome. And AI is going to be spectacular. It's going to help us in so many ways. Computers, DNA, just fantastic stuff will continue to propel us. And then it's up to you to figure out, what are the stories of the world? It's my great pleasure to be here in Rwanda with you. Rwanda is such a wonderful place. I try to come here every year, and it's great to visit with all of you. And Africa Leadership University and all of you students, you're the future. Thank you for coming today.